Hello and welcome to the rest of my life. I'm Lance Ash, heading back to work after a very good weekend. Finished a series of 7 small canvases, each featuring a duo of one larger figure and one smaller figure. Mostly sort of monsters or half robotic constructions or something like that, but all identifiable as figures. All right, I cycle through different cultural obsessions, especially when it comes to music. Lately got on a Kiss kick, especially 80s Kiss, and a lot of that time period for the band was derided, but Creatures of the Night is a really good record. Listen to that over the last couple of days. And I was going to bring Lick It Up tonight, but thought better of it at the last second. Replaced it with Belly's second album. But my guilty pleasure is Asylum. It is, objectively speaking, not very good, but there's something about it. They were always, I don't know, they were always sexually overt, but they didn't get outright sleazy until their 80s period. And not just sleazy sexually, but sleazy in the way they sounded. It was just this sort of obvious guitar solos. Obvious meaning just, I don't know, blunt. Anyway, but still, Creatures of the Night, especially the song Danger. The drums are so dynamic on it. Like Alice Cooper, they made the mistake of deciding that as time went on and the 70s came to an end and the 80s started rolling in, they made the mistake of deciding that their future lay with the heavy metal crowd. Alice Cooper was never a metal band. Basically, Alice Cooper was a rock band that decided that they would do show tunes and pump them up to rock and roll volume, rock and roll expressiveness. But Kiss was a straightforward rock and roll band. They weren't metal. They had some success in moving in that direction. I mean, they brought on board lead guitar players who had metal virtuosity, but I don't know, it ruined that fun element that the band had in the 70s. The best record they ever did was Rock and Roll Over. It really makes you wonder what would have happened if Ace and Peter Criss hadn't descended into drug addiction and unreliability. Okay, I'm gonna let this silver band get around me because I don't want him on my ass the whole way. There you go. You feel much better now, don't you? Chrysler. Anybody who buys a Chrysler is a fool. I don't trust American cars. Anyway, but there's something about Ace Frehley. There's only a few guitar players in the history of rock and roll that can be said to have inspired people to take up the guitar. George Harrison is one of them. Eddie Van Halen, Ace Frehley. That's just, I mean, Jimmy Page, that's a different thing. I don't think he inspired anybody to become a guitar player. He inspired already existing guitar players to look a certain way, to have a certain attitude, and that's different. But Ace Frehley was genuinely an inspiration for people to take up the guitar. It's just a shame, really, because they were on the verge of becoming, I don't know, something greater. It's too bad. A lot of people bitch about Dynasty being a disco record. Nothing wrong with it. There's some weak songs on there, but it's on the whole, it's all right. They always cared about sales and chart success more than they did musical integrity. Just look at Unmasked. What a pile of shit. Ace Frehley's song on The Elder. Wait, is it his song or his instrumental? I think it's the instrumental. Well, anyway, Ace Frehley's got one song on the record. I think it's, what is it, Black Light? Something about light. And he has an instrumental called Escape from the Island or something. Those are the only two good songs on The Elder. It's too bad they couldn't have done more albums like Rock and Roll Over. I love that scene on the first episode of WKRP when Andy Travis unrolls that Kiss 76 poster on the wall as an example of what he wants to turn the station into. And it is an example, or it is symbolic of what Kiss meant at the time. They meant rock and roll. And I know, I know a lot of people don't like the show business elements, the costumes and all that. But I don't know. I'm sort of torn on that issue. Because, like, one of my favorite bands is Rammstein. And they are definitely showmen. Definitely all the tinsel and glitter and smoke pots and, little theatrics on stage are definitely part of them. Of what makes up their appeal. I'm not a live music person anyway. I don't give a shit about live records, and I don't give a shit about going to concerts. I don't know. I remember reading a long time ago, I don't know who wrote it, but it was a review of a Jethro Tull live show, a different Jethro Tull concert, and it must have been it must have been a compilation of rock criticism by somebody. I don't know if it was Lester Bangs or who, but they were criticizing Jethro Tull for putting on this little act on stage where they were like pretending to try to sneak up on the drummer or something. I can't remember what it was. And the guy who wrote the piece said, "This is rock and roll?" And it's funny how rock and roll has different meanings for different people. So today the term is dead, basically. I remember when heavy metal was first embraced and then rejected again, and there were a lot of bands who had eagerly wore the label of heavy metal, who then turned on it and said, "No, we've never been metal. We're a rock band." I remember Motley Crue doing that. Such a thin line between heavy metal and rock and roll. I think Chuck Klosterman's full of shit on a lot of things, but I think it was him that said that the punk rockers, the early ones, had more in common with heavy metal than they did like garage bands or anything. And I think that's true. I think that what has pissed off a lot of people over the years has been, well, not today so much, but in the older, 30 years ago, was the excesses. There was this mistaken notion that rock and roll was supposed to be for the working class kids or something, and that when rock stars started making money and driving expensive cars and living in expensive houses, then they were no longer of the people, man. Which I think is stupid. I don't know what people expect. It's funny. Don't get in front of me. Going back to Kiss, they're one of those bands that I don't particularly like the individual members, but I like their albums. Especially the 70s ones. I remember when Revenge came out. The song Unholy's alright, but the rest of it is crap. I never heard anything. I heard Into the Void, which is alright. Oh my god, Crazy Nights was a pile of crap. I remember buying that on cassette when it first came out. Or maybe I stole it. Can't remember. Probably stole it. But they had played it up like, oh, this is going to be the greatest thing ever. And of course it wasn't. The song Crazy Nights is just garbage. One thing about Kiss was they were always so calculated. Let's write lyrics that make it seem like we're one of you. We are together. That we and the fans form one symbiotic organism, and by listening to us, you are expressing your individuality and defiance of the norms. And it's belied by their obvious personal philosophy. any rock star that votes Republican is a fool. Because it's not the left that wants to censor you. It's the Republicans, because they're the ones who are in bed with the fundamentalist Christians who can't stand you in the first place. And I have no use for Ted Nugent. And I like several of his albums. But he's another one that's just an idiot. So funny how almost all rock bands get to a point where they start to disappoint me. Rammstein hasn't done that to me yet. I remember Kiss being a little kid. I was never into the music when I was a kid, but I remember them being around. And I remember watching part of Kiss Meets the Phantom of the Park. And I didn't know much about them. There are all these rumors going around about who they were, what they were about. And I didn't think Gene Simmons could talk. I thought he just spoke with a lion's roar, because of that scene in the movie where they're around the pool. They were so close to achieving greatness. For Halloween, was it Halloween? I don't know. There was some kind of it must have been a Halloween party at church. My younger cousin, who's like 3 years younger than I am, came dressed up as Ace Frehley. I went to a church Halloween function at the old gymnasium in town, which became our community center. And I went dressed, and you can judge me probably correctly when you hear this, what my personality is. I went dressed as Calvin Coolidge. And it basically was a hat and a coat, and I never said anything all night. That was pretty much it. You can see why a lot of kids hated me. Things don't change much. Ugh, I would never have gone dressed as a rock star. I hated rock and roll up until the time I was about 16. And I think that's mainly because I didn't like anything that was on the radio. I did like Staying Alive by the Bee Gees for some reason. Anything that's propulsive and dynamic and dramatic is always good. Oh, I remember when the 4 Kiss solo records came out. There's a department store chain called Rose's here in the southeast, and the one here in Athens, that was basically where we got everything. Certainly got all my toys from there when I was a little kid. Anyway, over near the candy section, they had like big posters, big mock-ups of the covers of the records for the 4 solo records up. And I thought, this is creepy. Oh, I'm gonna have to drop back. I'm in a tight spot here. There we go. Oh my my God. I think somebody has done like a homemade compilation of the best of each of the four solo records. All of them have something good on them except for Peter Criss's, which is just horrible. He should have stuck to his Rod Stewart impersonation. Just done a whole record that's fake Rod Stewart. That's what he should have done, instead of this whatever the hell it was. All right, we're coming to the turnoff, which is the mark where I end the show. Come on, people. Anyway, I probably should have stuck to bringing Lick It Up tonight, just to go through it. All right, I'll see you later. Bye.